Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to share how you can cover up your acne spots and still look glowy, because sometimes if we try to cover up our spots and pigmentation and stuff like that, it can look really cakey and crusty and dry. So in today's video, I'm going to share some tips and tricks so that your spots get covered but you still feel hydrated underneath and glowy too if you want to look glowy. So without a further ado, let's get started. So before you do your makeup, it's really important that your face is clean. So please use a face wash or any cleanser. And thank you Dermaco for sponsoring this part of the video. I used the Dermaco 1% salicylic acid gel face wash today. The Dermaco brand is designed by dermatologists, and this face wash in particular is especially good for those with acne prone skin. So our skin gets drier during the winters, and that's why our skin produces extra sebum to keep it hydrated. But the overproduction of sebum actually causes acne. A little bit of sebum is fine because it keeps the skin hydrated and moisturized, but too much of it can clog pores and cause acne. And as you can see, I do have some acne. I mean, it's not active acne, it's mostly dried up, and that's because I've been using this face wash continuously for the last 2 to 3 days, and it has really dried up my acne. This one in particular was so huge, and this really helped in reducing it. That's because of the salicylic acid in it. Salicylic acid is a BHA, that is beta hydroxy acid. So it basically treats active acne and pimples and cleanses out your pores, and it also prevents clogging of pores, thus preventing more acne. Now I've also been using the Dermaco 2% salicylic acid face serum to treat my acne. And because of using both of these, my acne dried up pretty quickly. Now I have 2 bottles of it. I've been using it since months. Every time my skin acts up or I have like bumpy texture, I use this serum and it does help a lot. And even this has salicylic acid. It has 2% salicylic acid, which again controls your acne, as I just explained. You can use it during the day as well as night, as mentioned over here, but I personally like to use it only at night. You always have to use sunscreen. Don't skip your sunscreen if you are using active ingredients in your routine. So you can just take 2-3 drops and use it as part of your skincare routine. So if you're having any acne issues, I would highly recommend these two. And now let's get started with the makeup. Before the makeup, always prep your skin, okay? You can use any moisturizer which you like, and it got absorbed by your skin. I'll be using the Smashbox Primer Water. You can use any face mist. I like to use a face mist or a makeup fixer to really hydrate my skin before I put on makeup. I usually do this before I apply my moisturizer, but today I forgot to do that, so I did it afterwards. Really make sure your whole face is hydrated, because we want glow today. We want glow always. I'll also be applying a face oil. Now you can skip oil if you don't want to, but since I have dry skin, adding a face oil really helps. So I'm using the Colorbar Cellular Dry Oil, and just 2 drops on each side. Okay, wherever I have acne spots, right, it's not active acne, but still you can see the oil, right, come peeking through. So I'm not applying oil there. I'm just gonna keep it just like that and focus it on the rest of my face. I mean, it's not like I'm keeping it dry, even that has to get moisturized, but I'm mostly focusing on the rest of my face. Just tied my hair back. I'm gonna spritz some more spray because I'm still feeling dry. Can you see how hydrated my skin is looking? That's what you're looking for. Don't put makeup on dry, crusty skin, because that's what is gonna show. I'm using this Smashbox Oil and Shine Control Primer. You can use any mattifying primer. Oil peeks through. I'm using it only on the pimples, okay? You can also use it on your T-zone. Then use any full coverage concealer. I'm using the Infallible Concealer in the shade Almond, and this is slightly darker for me. So whenever you're covering up any spots or something, don't use a lighter shade. That doesn't make sense. A lot of people use lighter shades because they think concealer should be lighter than their shade, but that's only for highlighting. If you're trying to conceal something, to cover something, then don't use a lighter shade because it looks great. So either use the same shade or 1 or 2 shades darker. So if you use a darker shade, then you can use your own shade after that to cover it up. You can either use concealer or foundation after that, or you can use the same shade as your skin tone. I'm using this shade, which is 1 shade darker than my skin tone. So I'm applying it on the spots. This part is fine, but I'll just apply a little bit more. And I'm also applying under my eyes, just a little bit. I don't want full coverage makeup because I want it to look really glowy. Now, one tip would be to let it sit for some time, for a few seconds, not much. Don't let it completely dry, then it will be difficult to blend. But if you let it sit for some time, it does set by itself, and that's why you're gonna get more coverage. So before you blend it out, just wait for a few seconds. So till then, I'll just blend the concealer under my eyes. I'm just going to lightly blend it out. I'm not pressing it too hard. What I do is, I just like to blend the edges outwards like that, so that the middle part, it still has more coverage. Otherwise the coverage will just go away if you just blend it out roughly. So I'm focusing mostly on the edges and then lightly dabbing it. Now this is looking slightly darker than the rest of my skin tone. I mean, on the camera you can't really make out, but in real life this part looks slightly warmer. So I'm just going to apply a little bit of foundation. This is the Kay Beauty Hydrating Foundation in the shade 130N medium. I'm just taking just a tiny drop. One dot here, one dot here, one dot here. That's it. And I'm using the same brush because it's very little. I don't have the patience to get my sponge and dampen it up and things like that. I mean, you can skip this part. You don't have to apply foundation if your concealer is matching to your skin tone. You have to be careful here, okay? Because you don't want to move away the concealer you have applied underneath, okay? Now this has the most amount of layers compared to the rest of the skin, and if you directly set it with powder now, it can crease and it can look cakey. So don't do anything yet, okay? Let it sit by itself. If still you feel it can crease, or if your skin is feeling dry, then you can spritz some hydrating face mist on top of that. So I'm just gonna spritz a little bit. Don't spritz too much though, because then it will take away the product. Just a little bit. That is a little bit for me. So I'm just gonna let it dry and set by itself. Can you see those bumps? Makeup can't cover bumps. Okay, it's been a while now. So now I'll use some powder. I'm using the Maybelline Fit Me Loose powder in the shade light medium. I'm using this because it adds a little bit of coverage as well. I'm dusting off the excess because I don't want to apply too much at once and then cake it up. I forgot to highlight my under eye. So I'm using this L'Oreal Infallible Concealer again, but this is in the shade Amber. This is a lighter shade. Just applying a tiny dot over here. Now I'm going to set my under eyes. Before applying the powder, make sure there's no creases. If you find any creases, just take your brush or sponge and just dab on it. Look up and dab on it so that there's no creasing. And while applying the powder, like first your skin is kind of wet, right? So always look up and make sure the skin is smooth and no creases happening. And then lightly dab on it, okay? Because you don't want to take away the concealer. And once you are done with the first layer and once you feel it's kind of matte, then you can slightly increase the pressure later. But when you are just applying for the first time, use very little pressure, because then the powder sticks on the wet concealer parts and it looks patchy. So again, just lightly tap, like I'm barely putting any pressure on it. And once I feel it's kind of matte, then I slightly increase the pressure. Not much though, but slightly increase. Also setting my lids, also my T-zone. Generally for a glowy makeup look, I would use a liquid blush or a creamy blush, but I didn't use that because then it takes away the concealer, and I wanted to apply powder first, and I don't want to apply anything creamy after the powder. So I'm going to use a matte blush now. Before that, let me quickly fill in my eyebrows. Now I'll be applying blush. This is the Flower Beauty blush in the shade Peach Primrose. Applying blush now can be slightly tricky because it can take away your coverage from there. So be very careful. Apply slightly. Press slightly. You can apply as much as you want. And I'm not sweeping it across, as you can see, because that will take away the coverage. I'm just dabbing it. Here though I can do whatever I want because there's not much spots here. Applying on my nose, chin. Also applying on my eyelids using the same brush because I'm lazy. Now I'm using the Hoola bronzer, and even this apply carefully So I'm just focusing over here. I'm not covering all the way because that's my issue always. Whenever I cover something and then I use blush bronzer, it just goes away and then it looks like I've never covered it only. Actually, I don't mind that, but this video is not about that. Lying on my lids, so contouring my nose a little bit. Now again, I'm gonna spritz the primer water so that the powder melts down, everything looks like skin, and we have a damp base for highlighter. So I'll just take this brown eyeshadow, taking an angled brush and drawing a slight wing. This makes your lashes look longer. And I'll just take my highlighter. This is the Becca highlighter. Highlight my inner corner. I love doing this. Also taking slightly over here so that our makeup looks even more glowy. Because highlighting your inner corners, your attention directly goes over here. And this part looks really glowy and it kind of makes your whole face look glowy. Also highlighting my brow bone. And now using a fan brush and highlighting the highest points of my cheeks. This pops even more since our face was slightly damp due to the face mist. So if you want your highlighter to pop, use a face mist, let it dry a little bit, don't apply it on wet skin. But when it's a perfect amount of damp, just apply it on top of that. I'll quickly curl my lashes and apply mascara. I'm using the Huda Beauty mascara, using the curl and length side. For the lips, I'll first line my lips. It's almost gone, I need to sharpen it, but I'll do it later. I like to slightly overline my lips as well. This was the Nykaa lip liner in the shade Pillow Fight. Next I'm using the Kiro Beauty liquid lipstick in the shade Peachy Nude. And now I'm going to apply some gloss because when you have gloss, your makeup automatically looks glowy for some reason. It's the little thing that matters, okay? If you have some glow here, some glow here, some glow here, you're automatically gonna look glowy. So I'm using the Charlotte Tilbury lip gloss in the shade Candy Darling, and I'm applying it only in the center. If you still feel dry, you can again spritz some face mist, but right now I think that is enough. I've already sprayed a lot. If I spray even more, I'm going to look greasy. I'm again using the Huda Beauty mascara, but I'm using the volume side now. It has dried up a little. So if you apply more mascara, it looks even better. So this is the finished look. Thank you so much for watching. I personally love these dewy, glowy looks in which my skin feels comfortable. I don't really enjoy matte and full coverage looks. I don't know, I just never gravitate towards those looks. Even if it's full coverage, I always try to make sure my skin still feels comfortable and not matte. I think that's because I have dry skin. I mean, of course, this part is looking matte, just the full coverage part. But the rest of the skin I've kept pretty dewy so that you can't really make out that it's full coverage. But only we know this part is full coverage unless someone comes really close to you and they notice it, but it doesn't matter, you still look glowy. So I really hope you enjoyed this look, and if you did, please give this video a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel. I upload new videos every Saturday and sometimes Wednesday. And today's comment shout out goes to Latika. Thank you so much for your comment, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.